Welcome to Concrete Block, your go-to source for in-depth analysis and discussion of the latest news and trends. I'm your host, Walter, and we're excited to have you joining us today. As we dive into our first segment, we're taking a closer look at two significant stories making headlines in Canada. First, we have the impact of the US-Canada trade relationship on the Canadian economy. A recent report highlights the growing gap between the two nations' economies, with some experts attributing this to factors such as trade policies and economic conditions. We'll be exploring this topic further, examining the potential consequences for Canadian businesses and industries. In other news, Protein Industries Canada has announced the appointment of Tyler Groeneveld as its new CEO. With over 31 years of experience in the agriculture and food sector, Groeneveld brings a wealth of knowledge and leadership expertise to the role. As one of Canada's 5 global innovation clusters, Protein Industries Canada aims to drive growth in the country's plant-based food, feed, and ingredient manufacturing sectors. We'll be discussing the implications of this appointment and how it may shape the future of Canada's agriculture and food industry. It's essential to consider multiple perspectives when evaluating these stories, and we'll strive to provide a balanced view of the issues at hand. Our goal is to inform and engage our listeners, encouraging thoughtful discussion and debate. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We're taking a closer look at some fascinating stories from around the world, and I'm your host, Walter. Today, we're exploring a critical issue affecting Italy, its dwindling birth rate. According to recent reports from the Italian National Institute of Statistics, or ISTAT, the country is on track to record its lowest number of births in 2025, with just over 198,000 newborns in the first 7 months of the year. This represents a 6.3% decline from the same period last year. The fertility rate, which measures the average number of children born to each woman of childbearing age, has also dropped to a record low of 1.13. This trend is not new. Italy has been experiencing a decline in birth rates for over 16 years, with last year's total of 370,000 births being the lowest since the country's unification in 1861. The implications are significant, with a rapidly aging population and a shrinking workforce on the horizon. By 2050, it's estimated that the share of people working or looking for work in the 55-64 age group will rise to 70%, while those in the 65-74 age group will make up 16% of the workforce. Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni and her predecessors have acknowledged the issue, but so far, no effective solutions have been implemented to halt the decline. The Italian government faces a daunting task in addressing this demographic crisis, which has far-reaching consequences for the country's economy, healthcare system, and social security. It's essential to approach this topic with sensitivity and understanding, recognizing that birth rates are influenced by a complex array of factors, including economic conditions, cultural norms, and access to education and healthcare. As we continue to monitor this situation, it's crucial to consider the human impact and the need for comprehensive policies to support families and promote a balanced demographic development. We'll be keeping a close eye on this story as it unfolds. In the meantime, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this critical issue. Share your perspectives with us on social media using the hashtag #ConcreteBlock. Stay tuned for our final story of the day right here on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block, folks. We've got one more story to dive into before we wrap up today's show. I want to take you to Japan, where a significant development has been making headlines. The country has just elected a new leader, and it's got people talking. Now, I know some of our listeners might be thinking, Japan? Isn't that a pretty stable country? And you're right, it is. But this election is noteworthy because it marks a shift in the country's political landscape. The new leader is part of a populist movement that's been gaining traction in Japan, and it's got many wondering what this means for the future of the country. According to reports, the new leader has promised to shake things up in Tokyo, with a focus on economic growth and social reform. But some critics are worried that this could lead to instability and potentially even conflict with neighboring countries. Now, I want to be clear that we're not here to take sides or make value judgments. Our goal is to provide you with the facts and let you decide for yourself what you think about this development. And it's worth noting that Japan has a long history of democracy and a strong tradition of peaceful transfer of power. So, what does this mean for the rest of us? Well, it's too early to say for sure, but it's possible that this could have implications for global trade and international relations. We'll be keeping an eye on this story and bringing you updates as more information becomes available. It's also worth noting that this development is part of a larger trend we're seeing around the world, with populist movements gaining traction in many countries. This raises important questions about the role of democracy and the impact of social media on our political systems. That's all for today's Concrete Block. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, stay informed.